Hi and welcome to this video. Today we're comparing the iPhone 13 Pro versus a $6,000 camera, the Canon 1DX Mark II. So what's important to know? The first thing, I really was annoyed to see over and over again all the videos which they are comparing an iPhone to a camera. You probably could tell, and they try to match the picture as close as possible to get it, and they use scenarios where it's pretty easy for the iPhone to do a great job. So I wanted to try it for myself and get some results, and now we're checking out the results and we're comparing the shots. The first round we're going to look at are edited pictures. So I edited the pictures from the iPhone in Lightroom and from the Canon 1DX Mark II. I edited the picture also in Lightroom. I tried to match it as close as possible. And yeah, we're going to look at those pictures, and in the second round we're going to look at the pictures straight out of the camera. So with no editing, and what most people use. What you need to know is that I know exactly what I do in Lightroom. So I know how to match those shots. Most of the people who only shoot on their iPhone don't know how to edit pictures, how to use the right technique. But straight out of the camera, we will look at those shots and see if they're as good as the one out of the camera. So let's get right into it. The first shot I took in Vienna, and we're going to look at those shots. So I give you a few seconds to look at both pictures. You can guess which one is which, and yeah. Okay, so I think most of you guessed right. The right one is from the iPhone, the left one is from the camera. You can see it because the iPhone tries to get as much information as possible. So all the highlights are crushed down and all the shadows are lifted up, but I try to compensate it and I try to get it as close as possible, but still you can see that the camera has a more natural look. So the shadows are rich and the highlights are realistic. So on the left side it's brighter than on the right side, because on the left side is the sun. But the iPhone tries to compress the whole sky so it looks even, but it's not natural. And also it's over sharpened. You can see it on the ground and by the building that it's much sharper. And I de-sharpened it and I reduced the clarity to match it, but you still can see it. It is not as good looking as on the camera. So the next shot we're going to look at is a picture from a friend, Lauren, during filming of another YouTube video. And yeah, you can see both shots right now. I give you a few seconds. Okay, so I guess you got this one right, because the left one has a shallower depth of field and you clearly can see that the left one is the camera and the right one is the iPhone. It does the HDR thing, it does the over sharpening. And yeah, I try to match it, but there it's very obvious that the left one is the professional camera and the right one is the iPhone. Okay, the next one is a sunset picture. And yeah, I give you a few seconds, guess which one is which. And yeah. Okay, so I think it's pretty hard to tell which one is which if you don't know it, but the left one is the camera picture and the right one is the iPhone picture. There you can see it also, again, the HDR thing, the sky is brighter. I tried to match it on the camera, it was even darker a little bit because the foreground was so bright. And also on the ground you can see that the shadows are lifted, and on the left side from the camera it's much darker. So the dynamic range is much higher with the camera. The iPhone just tries to do the same thing, but it can't do it. Okay, so the next shot. This one was a portrait, so I took this shot in portrait mode with the iPhone 13 Pro. And I give you a few seconds, look at both shots and try to guess which one is which. Okay, so the left one is the camera and the right one is the iPhone. I can tell it's pretty easy because there's so much going on, and the shallow depth of field is much nicer on the left side, the camera shot, and on the right side you can see it's a little bit of a green tint in it. I try to remove it, but it's not possible. So yeah, I try to match it, and also the brightness. So his hand is very bright, and in the camera shot it's much more dynamic range. As I already told you, the iPhone tries to do it, but it chooses with an algorithm which part is bright and which it decreases the brightness. And here you can see that the iPhone doesn't do a good job. So yeah, and also the colors are pretty off in the shots. I tried to repair it as good as possible, and also it was over sharpened, but yeah. So the next shot, I was pretty surprised by this shot because they are pretty close. So this shot I took with the iPhone and the Canon 1DX Mark II during sunset, and I give you a few seconds to try to find out which one is which. Okay, yeah. So some of you may be right. There are a few points where you could tell that this one is the camera and the other one is the phone. So the left shot is the camera shot and the right shot is the iPhone shot. You can tell it by looking at the shallow depth of field. You see the fence in the foreground is much more out of focus on the left shot than on the right shot with the iPhone. But in terms of color, it's very close. I edited, of course, both shots. The only other point where I could tell it is that where the sun hits the building, the picture is more flat on the phone shot than on the camera shot. On the camera shot there's more contrast, so dark spots are really dark and not as washed out as lifted shadows. So yeah, I could tell it that way. Yeah, so we're going to look at the next shot, and the next shot is this one. Yeah, and I give you a few seconds to guess which one is which. I think it's pretty easy on this one. Okay, so most of you, I think, got it right. The left one is the iPhone shot and the right one is the camera shot. You can see very clearly because the iPhone tries to get everything even, so it does the HDR thing, and you can see it pretty clearly that the sky where the clouds are in the back, that there is you can see the sky, and that's not natural. So the camera handles it pretty well, that there is only white because there is the sun and it's pretty bright, and also the foreground, it tries to lift the shadows as hard as possible and to crush the highlights down as much as possible. And the camera does a much better job. It's much more natural, and also it's over sharpened on the iPhone. So yeah, it's pretty obvious. And now we're going to look at the shots straight out of the camera, because you need to know that I know what I'm doing. So I took these shots into a professional editing software and I matched it as good as I can. And most of the people who are only using an iPhone can do the same thing. So I want to look at the shots straight out of the camera, and yeah, we compare these shots now. So these are the pictures straight out of the camera, and there you can see it even more. I give you a few seconds, but I don't think you need those seconds to tell which one is which. Okay, so I think everyone knows that the right one is the iPhone and the left one is the camera, because the camera displays the whole picture much more natural. It's not over sharpened as on the right side, and the HDR look on the iPhone is pretty obvious. So the next shot, and yeah, also here I don't think you need to guess which one is which. It's pretty obvious. The iPhone pushes the shadows and it dumps the highlights, and it's a very flat image. So if you don't edit this shot, yeah, it looks like this. Not very good. And the next shot. And here also you can see straight out of the camera, it looks like this, and you can tell that which one is the camera and which one is the iPhone. Yeah. Okay, so the next shot is the portrait, which I took in portrait mode on the iPhone. And yeah, you can also tell which one is which. The iPhone picture is much brighter. It's very sharp, so the software tries to sharpen the image as much as possible. And yeah, you can also see that the light and how it looks is much more natural on the right side, so the camera picture, than on the left side. Okay, now the shots which were pretty close when I edited both shots. You can tell that the shots are pretty close, even without editing. So they're pretty good, not much to say. Yeah, you can see it because the fence is more out of focus in the camera shot. So the left one is the camera, the right one is the iPhone. But there the iPhone does a pretty good job, and yeah. So the last shot, and there it's really obvious which one is the phone and which one is the camera. So the left one, I don't think you need time to guess which one is which. The left one is the iPhone shot and the right one is the camera shot. And you can see it pretty clearly because the camera captures the sky and the building and the streets and the people standing in a pretty even way. So I can edit this picture and I can do it like I want to, because there is a whole lot of information which I can work with. And the iPhone tries to make everything visible right away. So it does pull down the highlights so you can see the whole sky, and it does lift the shadows as much as possible to see everything in the foreground. And this looks terrible. So it's over sharpened and it really doesn't look good at all. So there, the iPhone really, I don't know how this picture is turned out that bad, but yeah, the iPhone doesn't do a good job. Okay, so I think you can tell that the phone isn't as good as a camera. I used the 24-70 f2.8 lens on every shot you just saw on the camera. And if I would have used other lenses like the 50mm f1.2 or the 35mm f1.4, the difference would be much more visible, because these lenses are even better than the 24-70, and yeah. So you can see the difference if you can't edit the pictures, and if you don't know how to get the best out of your pictures, you will see the difference like night and day in most of the cases. In some cases the iPhone does a decent job, but there are also many occasions where it just fails completely. The colors are off, it's too sharp. And yeah, you need to know what you're doing, no matter if you use an iPhone or a professional camera. But you can take great pictures with your iPhone, but you need to know what you do. So basically it comes down to, if you're a good photographer, you can take great pictures with your iPhone. And if you're a bad photographer, you can take a good picture with an iPhone, and you probably can't take a good picture with a very expensive DSLR camera. So with that said, I think cameras are much better. The sensors are much bigger on a camera than on a phone. And I think that most of the cameras out there produce amazing pictures, and you can see it. And even if you're not a professional and you cannot see the difference, you can spot that there's one picture which is better than the other. So if you see it outdoors in a frame, a picture, you can see that the one picture is better than the other. You probably don't know why the one shot is better than the other, but you can you can't say that it is better than the other one. Yeah. So with that said, I don't think that phones are as good as cameras. No matter if you take pictures or video, the cameras are much better. It's their only job to take great pictures. They have to do nothing else than taking video or taking amazing pictures. And so I think that cameras are much better than iPhone. I'm sorry to say it if you want to hear otherwise. I know there are many YouTubers out there who want to sell you a camera phone pictures like it is as good as taken with a full frame DSLR camera or SLR camera. But I have to tell you that that's not the case. Those YouTubers, most of them know exactly what they're doing, and they edited the picture perfectly, so you can't tell the difference right away. But most of you will see the difference immediately if you saw the picture right out of the phone and straight out of the camera. So I think that's not very productive to say that an iPhone 13 has such a good camera. And yeah, I know the iPhone pictures which you see in the commercials from Apple are really good, but you also have to consider that professionals are taking these pictures. So they light the whole scenery, they use a whole Hollywood sets to light those sets, and then you can take good pictures with any camera. So basically you can use a potato to take great pictures. And yeah, with that said, I hope you learned something in this video, and I hope I see you guys in the next video. Bye.